morning, everyone, and welcome to this yet another webinar on some few important questions on GST. Today we have with us Advocate Anil Mishra ji and Advocate Pawan ji will be joining shortly. So the topics and the areas for deliberation today are a couple of latest advanced rulings. Then there is a circular on director remuneration, which is clarificatory circular. I would request everyone to kindly mute themselves. And then we'll be talking briefly about composition levy schemes under GST. So, firstly, we talk about an advanced ruling where the advanced ruling was passed by Karnataka High Court. Now, this relates to online information database access and retrieval services. You all are aware in this case, it is if it is to an individual for non-business purposes, the liability falls on the service provider. Say, for example, somebody is conducting online tests from abroad and tests are being taken by the aspirants for that particular course in India. The taxability is primarily with the service provider who's providing these tests. So, इस वाले advanced ruling में 3 टाइप के टेस्ट का जिक्र हुआ था, जहां पे अलग-अलग टाइप के ह्यूमन इंटरवेंशंस की बात आई है. तो सेक्शन 217 आईजीएसटी एक्ट का आप देखेंगे जो ऑनलाइन इंफॉर्मेशन एंड डेटाबेस एक्सेस एंड रिट्रीवल सर्विसेज को डिफाइन करता है. उसमें एक बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट वर्ड है इन्वॉल्विंग मिनिमम ह्यूमन इंटरवेंशन, और नीचे फिर उन्होंने अलग-अलग टाइप की सर्विसेज दी हैं कि किसको ऑनलाइन इंफॉर्मेशन एंड डेटाबेस रिट्रीवल डेटाबेस एक्सेस और रिट्रीवल सर्विसेज माना जाएगा. तो ये एडवांस रूलिंग में ये डिसाइड हुआ था कि 3 टेस्ट में से एक ऐसा टेस्ट था जहां पे टेस्ट ऑनलाइन ही होना था, पर एक एग्जामिनेशन सेंटर पे होना था जहां पे कैंडिडेट्स को अपना टेस्ट कंडक्ट करना था, और वहां पे एक सुपरवाइजर था जो पूरे इवेंट को और पूरे टेस्ट को सुपरवाइज कर रहा था. उसके बाद वो टेस्ट चेक होने के लिए यूएस में ही जाते थे. दूसरा ये था कि आपने जाना है ऑनलाइन सेंटर पे, पर वहां पे कोई ह्यूमन इंटरवेंशन नहीं है. आप सिस्टम पे लॉगिन कीजिए, अपना टेस्ट दीजिए और टेस्ट इवैल्यूएट होने के लिए वापस यूएस जाएगा. तीसरे वाले केस में भी सिमिलर सिनेरियो था, पर वहां पे क्या जो टेस्ट इवैल्यूएट हो रहा है वो फिजिकली लोगों के पास जाता था यूएस में, और लोग उसको चेक करके वापस भेजते थे. तो ये 3 टाइप के डिफरेंट टेस्ट के बारे में यहाँ पे इस एडवांस रूलिंग में डिस्कस हुआ था. और उन्होंने जहाँ पे ह्यूमन इंटरवेंशन सबसे कम थी एक टेस्ट में, जो सेकंड वाला केस है, उस केस में बोला था कि उसको टैक्सेबल होगा, और बाकी जहाँ पे ह्यूमन इंटरवेंशन ज्यादा है वहां पे उन्होंने बोला था वो उनको टैक्सेबल नहीं होगा. तो आई वुड इनवाइट अनिल जी टू शेयर हिज व्यूज ऑन दिस एडवांस रूलिंग, प्लीज. Sir, your voice is muted.
I've seen that ruling.
Sir.
Basically, the whole issue revolves around test type 3. If you see, there are 3 types of tests conducted by that US agency. One is completely by the student interaction with the portal. Second is where a student is interacting with the portal under invigilation. And third is where a student is interacting with the portal but is giving certain essay type answers which are evaluated by someone individually in US, and a marking is given and then the result is declared like that. On online information and data retrieval services, like Pradeep ji rightly said, there is a mention of term minimal human intervention. Now, minimal human intervention is nowhere defined in GST. In this ruling, if we see that in ruling itself, Pradeep ji, if you can share the ruling if you have. All right. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, please, sir. I'll stop.
See, what they are saying is, in YADR surveys, there is a circular issued by board under the service tax regime, November 2016. So when they mention minimal human intervention or no human intervention, they say network to function and the supply of which requires limited or no human intervention, including virtual classrooms, except where the internet or similar electronic service is used as a tool simply for communication between the teacher and the student. Now say we are conducting this webinar with a fees where Mr. Pradeep is sitting in US. And we are being enriched by his experience on certain topics. Everything is going online, everything is through network, but there is a human intervention. They are saying wherever there is a human intervention, because Mr. Pradeep is sitting in US, giving you his idea or giving you his views or assessing your performance or doing something with his own brain in addition to a software, is a human intervention. So when in this circular, in service tech circular, the highlighted part where they are saying including virtual classroom. Virtual classroom, if you are aware, nowadays there are two kinds of distant education through internet. One is where the software is interactive, and you put interact with the software and learn the tricks and knowledge, gain the knowledge by giving an answer and checking the correctness of the answer. What was test 1 or test 2 in their ruling, advanced ruling. But where there is an assessment by a third person, which is separated from this online processes, this ruling correctly removes that part from OIADR because there is a human interest. Now, implication, if you want to say, Netflix is, of course, nobody is interacting. You choose a picture, you choose a film, and that film starts running. You pay for it. That is OIADR. But if Netflix asks you to subscribe to a program where a particular lecture is being delivered, where you would participate, of course, it will not be OIADR. Now, the beauty of the entire decision in this advanced ruling is that if you are OIADR service provider, you have to take a registration in India and pay tax and comply with the GST provision. But if you are out of this, your service do not fall under the category of taxable service in the hand of individual recipient. Individual non-taxable recipient, because if it is taxable recipient, कोई business के लिए आप service को use कर रहे हैं, then you would have to pay under reverse charge. So the intention why this advanced ruling was sought was very clear. They wanted this test 3 to be kept out, and they succeeded in it. It's a good it's a clear-cut judgment, clear-cut judgment on the provisions. And this is what they have mentioned about some minimal human intervention. They have mentioned about a VET committee on the European Commission. So, without going into this part, what is the minimal human intervention as per European Commission? I think it is better we go by the CBEC's their own understanding, where they have clearly stated that a virtual classroom is different, except when they are saying including virtual classroom, except where the network is used as a tool simply for communication between a teacher and a student. So it could be a communication between teacher and a student. It could be a communication between a lawyer and a client. It could be a communication between a chartered accountant and his client. It could be anything related to where two individuals are interacting with each other through a software or without a software will not come under OID. Pradeep ji.
Thank you, sir.
I will just stop sharing. Yes.
Yes. So I will summarize this advanced ruling for you. OIDR जो services हैं, उन services में जहाँ पे अगर कोई individual उन services को procure करता है and particularly for non-business purposes जो services बाहर से दी जा रही, OIDR सर्विसेज को उन्होंने क्लासिफाई किया है कि OIDR सर्विसेज क्या होती है. जैसे सर ने आपको एक्सप्लेन किया कि उसमें मिनिमम ह्यूमन इंटरवेंशन होना चाहिए और सारा का सारा काम इंटरनेट या और किसी मतलब मेजरली इंटरनल प्रोटोकॉल के थ्रू ही डिलीवर होना चाहिए. उस केस में जो सर्विस प्रोवाइडर है जो कि बाहर बैठा है उसको इंडिया में रजिस्ट्रेशन लेना पड़ेगा और अपना जीएसटी का कंप्लायंस पूरा करना पड़ेगा. Whereas अगर ये वाली सर्विसेज मतलब सिमिलर टाइप की सर्विसेज आप मान लीजिए और वो OIDR से बाहर हो जाती है और उसको फिर आपने अगर बिजनेस पर्पसेस के लिए प्रोक्योर किया है यहाँ पे इंडिया में, so the liability to pay GST is under reverse charge on the recipient of the service. We move on to the next advanced ruling which relates to determining the aggregate turnover for purposes of section 22 जहाँ पे आपको registration apply करना पड़ता है. तो सेक्शन 22 का बेसिक अंडरस्टैंडिंग ये है कि 20 लाख रुपए से ऊपर का टर्नओवर अगर आपका हो तो 20 लाख रुपए से ऊपर के टर्नओवर के केस में आप लोगों को जीएसटी के रजिस्ट्रेशन में अप्लाई करना पड़ेगा. अब उसमें जो डेफिनेशन 22 में आती है वो डेफिनेशन आती है एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर की. वहां पे उन्होंने ये मेंशन किया है कि एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर क्या होगा. तो एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर में उन्होंने ये बोला है कि आप सब सर्विसेज को इंक्लूड कीजिए, whether it is exempted or whether it is taxable on a single PAN, और फिर उसको आप टोटल करके आप अपना एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर निकालिए. इस एडवांस रूलिंग में बेसिकली जो एडवांस रूलिंग ली गई थी वो 3 इंटरेस्ट जो एप्लीकेंट को आ रहे थे उनसे रिलेटेड ली गई थी. कैन यू ऑल प्लीज म्यूट योरसेल्फ. यस. तो जो एडवांस, जैसे मैं कह रहा था कि जो एडवांस रूलिंग ली गई थी वो 3 इंटरेस्ट कंपोनेंट्स जो इंडिविजुअल को आ रहे थे, जो एप्लीकेंट को आ रहे थे उनसे रिलेटेड ली गई थी. द एप्लीकेंट इन दिस केस वाज प्रोवाइडिंग सर्विसेज ऑफ रेंटिंग ऑफ इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी एंड देन ही वाज रिसीविंग इंटरेस्ट आल्सो. अब इंटरेस्ट वो 3 सोर्सेज से आ रहे थे. पहला पीपीएफ का इंटरेस्ट आ रहा था, दूसरा इंटरेस्ट आ रहा था जो उन्होंने पर्सनल लोन दिए थे अपने फैमिली और फ्रेंड्स को, और तीसरा इंटरेस्ट आ रहा था सेविंग बैंक का इंटरेस्ट, विच इज अ वेरी कॉमन इंटरेस्ट जो हर किसी को आ सकते हैं जनरली. इस एडवांस रूलिंग में ये बोला गया है कि जो एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर आप सेक्शन 22 के लिए कंसिडर करते हैं उसमें ये इंटरेस्ट भी इंक्लूड होगा. तो मेरा अनिल जी से ये पूछना है कि इस एडवांस रूलिंग में whether it was it fair enough to include these interests, because interest what we understand are primarily exempt by notification 12/2017. So should they be included in aggregate turnover? Over to you, sir.
Yeah, what I would again refer to the entire scheme of GST. If Pradeep ji remember correctly, we always discuss that in earlier scheme and in current scheme of reporting and returns, GST always wanted to have your P&L month-to-month basis. Why I am saying this is, aggregate turnover includes the supplies, exempted supplies. There is a specific exemption. When the definition is saying it would include exempted service, it would include exempted service whether it is interest or not. And not only interest, it includes non-GST supplies also. If you see the definition of aggregate turnover, means aggregate value of all taxable supplies excluding the value of inward supplies on our scheme, okay, exempt supplies, export of goods or service or both, and the interstate supply having the same permanent account number. To be, can we go to the definition? I think something is missing. Let me share. Let me go to the. This is important because we all are. We all are giving advice to multiple clients. And why this is important, I'll come back. But let us first see what they say by aggregate turnover. Okay, it is same, sorry. Aggregate turnover means the aggregate value of all taxable supplies, exempt supplies, exports of goods or service or both, and interstate supply of persons having the same permanent account to be computed on all India basis, but excludes central tax, state tax, union territory, integrated tax and cess. ये एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर आपको दो जगह इसकी जरूरत पड़ती है। एक तो जहां आपने अभी मेंशन किया श्री सवाई मनोहर लाल वाले
जी
एडवांस रूलिंग में, और एक जहां आप कंपोजिशन लेने की बात करते हैं
जी।
एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर में आपको नॉन जीएसटी सप्लाई लेना है नहीं लेना है, ये एक इशू है। एग्जाम्प्ट लेना है कि नहीं लेना, ये दूसरा इशू। तो एग्जाम्प्ट अगर उन्होंने स्पेसिफिकली लिखा हुआ है कि एग्जाम्प्ट सप्लाई आप लेंगे तो आपको लेना ही लेना है। एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर में अगर एग्जाम्प्ट सप्लाई काउंट करनी है तो इंटरेस्ट और इंटरेस्ट सेपरेटली, जो सेक्शन 7 के शेड्यूल्स हैं उन शेड्यूल्स में कहीं भी इंटरेस्ट की बात नहीं हो रही
जी।
शेड्यूल 3 में इंटरेस्ट को नहीं छोड़ा हुआ है
नहीं,
तो शेड्यूल 3 वाली बात इसमें नहीं आएगी। इसके बाद सप्लाई है, तो अब हम लोग जरा सप्लाई भी देख लें कि सप्लाई क्या क्या चीजों को बोलते हैं। कोई चीज सप्लाई की डेफिनेशन से ही बाहर हो और वो क्यों अर्जेंटली आपको ये इस बारे में जानना जरूरी है। Give me a moment, please. Supply is a scope in section 7. I'm sorry. All forms of supply of goods or services or both, supply का definition जो बोलते हैं, such as sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license, rental, lease or disposal made or agreed to be made for a consideration by a person in the course of furtherance of business, import of service for a consideration, and activities specified in Schedule 1 made or agreed to be made without a consideration. No, I am missing something. Non-GST supplies. Acha. Okay. Okay. No. This advance ruling is answering regarding interest.
Yes, sir.
That is that's okay. I mean, that is given in the definition, so there is no way out. You have to include the interest in your aggregate turnover. What I wanted just to refer you, request you to refer to Form GSTR 3B. GSTR 3B has been one particular entry has been a questionable part all the time. What to do with this entry. If we see all exempted entries, you have to mention. Are we mentioning receipts of interest in this because it is exempted? No, we need to do it. Each business has to do it. Each registered person who is filing GSTR 3B has to report interest here. Now, second thing, anything other than that, which is not exempt and even non-GST, has to be reported in GSTR 3B. This is what causes your differences in reconciliation in GSTR 9. जब आप P&L बनाते हैं तो P&L में रेवेन्यू साइड में आप जितनी भी चीजें लेके जाते हैं, आप देखिए कहीं ना कहीं वो GSTR 3B में रिफ्लेक्ट होती है। राइट साइड का पूरा पोर्शन, पहले का GSTR 3 आप देख लीजिए जो कैंसिल हो गया, पहले का GSTR 2 देख लीजिए जो चेंज हो गया, सॉरी 1 में आप सप्लाई दे रहे हैं टैक्सेबल पूरी, GSTR 3 जो पुराना था उसमें भी आपको नॉन GSTR आउटवर्ड सप्लाई देना था और अभी 3B में भी देना है। तो ना सिर्फ SSI एग्जम्पशन, सॉरी द स्मॉल स्केल एग्जम्पशन, यू हैव टू रिपोर्ट टू द इंटरेस्ट। अभी आगे हम जिस चीज पे डिस्कशन करने वाले हैं, एक आज के एजेंडा में कंपोजिशन स्कीम की भी बात है, उसमें इंटरेस्ट को स्पेसिफिकली एक्सक्लूड किया गया है। अभी हम आगे जाएंगे तो देखेंगे। लेकिन दूसरी चीजें हमें ध्यान ये रखनी है कि जहां आप एग्जम्प्टेड सर्विसेज की बात कर रहे हैं, जहां एग्जम्प्टेड सर्विसेज का रेवेन्यू अक्रू हो रहा है आपके बैलेंस शीट में, आपकी रिपोर्टिंग कंपलसरी है। प्रदीप जी,
थैंक यू सर। Pawan ji has also joined us. Pawan ji,
हेलो,
hope everything is fine with you, sir.
हाँ जी इट्स फाइन। डॉक्टर का कुछ थोड़ा सा प्रॉब्लम था।
ओके। सर हमने अभी तक 2 एडवांस रूलिंग डिस्कस कर ली हैं। एक पहले OIDR सर्विसेज से रिलेटेड थी, दूसरी ये जो इंटरेस्ट इंक्लूड करना है आपको एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर पे रजिस्ट्रेशन पर्पसेस के लिए। So
Okay.
I would invite you to share your views on this second advanced ruling, sir, if you can please.
सर थोड़ा सा
प्रदीप
जी सर।
मेरा अनिल सर से सर एक क्लैरिफिकेशन चाहिए था। एज यू सेड कि आपको GSTR 3B में इंटरेस्ट जो इंटरेस्ट अर्निंग है दैट इज रिक्वायर्ड टू डिस्क्लोज।
यस करेक्ट।
बट सर एज ऑफ नाउ आई डोंट थिंक the industry is following.
Nobody is doing.
Yes. So what is your opinion, sir? It has to be reported.
Since there is no revenue implication, one thing, and since nobody has come to you to indicate any deficiency in your return.
Correct.
We are not yet alerted on this part. What I am saying, if it is specifically exempt, and if there is a specific space and a specific column to report that earning, what stops us? भाई GST का स्कीम पुराने टैक्सेशन की सारी स्कीम से अलग है। हमको इसको इनकम टैक्स के साथ भी जोड़कर देखना चाहिए, आपके फाइनेंशियल्स के साथ भी जोड़ करके देखना चाहिए, गवर्नमेंट जिस तरीके से आपको मॉनिटर करना चाहती है उसको भी जोड़ करके देखना चाहिए। कि जैसे इनकम टैक्स में आप सारे प्रकार की इनकम का मेंशन करते हैं,
राइट,
वैसे ही GST में आपको सारे किसी भी प्रकार की सप्लाई से जो जनरेट हो रहा है वो तो उनको चाहिए ही चाहिए। वो बनता कहना है कि वो नॉन GST भी चाहिए सर। तो सेम थिंग आप वहाँ आप समझिए कि एक व्यवसाय है मेरा, ट्रांसपोर्ट को छोड़ दीजिए, रिवर्स चार्ज का चीज है। समझिए मेरी एक किराने की दुकान है, एज ए प्रोप्राइटरशिप मैं एक किराने की दुकान चला रहा हूँ और उसी प्रोप्राइटरशिप में एज ए सेपरेट बिजनेस में एक शराब की दुकान भी चला रहा हूँ। तो शराब तो नॉन GST हो गया, एग्जम्पशन का कोई बात ही नहीं है।
राइट।
और मेरा महीने भर का टोटल जो रेवेन्यू जनरेट हो रहा है, जो का टोटल पैसा जो मेरे बैंक में इकट्ठा हो रहा है, उसका सरकार को हिसाब चाहिए। तो इंटरेस्ट पार्ट तो खास करके, क्योंकि बिजनेस में ये एक बड़ा इशू रहता है, जहां आपके चाहे इंटर कॉर्पोरेट डिपॉजिट हो, चाहे आपके इंटरेस्ट इनकम हो डिपॉजिट के थ्रू, या दूसरे किसी तरीके से इंटरेस्ट का अक्रूवल हो रहा है, तो वो आपको यहाँ रिपोर्ट करना है। अदरवाइज 9 में आपको नोट करना पड़ेगा, 9C में आपके ऑडिटर को रिमार्क डालना पड़ेगा कि डिफरेंस के कारण आ रहा है।
हाँ, वो तो 9 में तो रिपोर्ट करना पड़ रहा है इसको, 9 में। यस, यू आर राइट। And sir, second question, the advance ruling which you are discussing, so this, what is your conclusion on this advance ruling? Means it is correct? It is correctly
It's correct, 100% correct. There is no doubt about it, sir. You see the definition, it says exempted supplies का उसमें टर्नओवर इंक्लूड होगा 20 लाख के एग्जम्पशन में, तो वो इंक्लूड होगा। आप अगर पहले के एक्साइज के नियमों को देखेंगे तो जिस प्रकार का वो 4 करोड़ रुपए का लिमिट काउंट हुआ करता था पहले, कि जिसमें एक्साइजेबल नॉन एक्साइजेबल भाई दोनों सेल हम काउंट करेंगे, आप एसएसआई ओपी नहीं चार्ज करेंगे। तो वैसे यहाँ भी है, आपका टैक्सेबल नॉन टैक्सेबल सारी चीजें जाएंगी, उसमें एग्जम्प्टेड भी जाएगा।
थैंक यू
जी
सर एक क्वेश्चन है एग्जम्प्ट टर्नओवर पे
जी।
तो सर whether we have to declare in exempt category and we have to declare non GST interest part को?
Interest is exempt category. There is a specific exemption for the interest.
हाँ, बट सर उसमें अगर exempt category में दिखाते हैं तो then it's rule 42 का रिवर्सल उस पे आएगा। But again से interest is not required to be deduct, interest requirement नहीं है rule 42 का।
सर ये एक आप जो बात बोल रहे हैं कि अगर आप उसको exempted income दिखा रहे हैं, तो जो आपका रिवर्सल वाला पार्ट है, उस रिवर्सल वाले पार्ट में हम जाएं तो आप ये पाएंगे कि रिवर्सल आपको सारी चीजों पे नहीं करना है, उस सर्विस से रिलेटेड जो चीजें हैं उससे ही रिवर्सल करना है ना। जो विच इज गोइंग एक्सक्लूसिवली फॉर एग्जम्प्टेड सप्लाईज वो आपको लेना ही नहीं है, जो दोनों में जा रहे हैं उसका प्रपोर्शन लेना है, और जो प्योरली टैक्सेबल में जा रहा है उसको भी बाहर रखना है। प्रदीप जी, एम आई करेक्ट?
यस सर।
सेपरेट बेसिकली 3B में नहीं, सेपरेटली कोई है। यस,
जब आप इंटरेस्ट इनकम दिखा रहे हैं तो थोड़ा सा इसको डिस्कस कर लेते हैं। इंटरेस्ट अर्न करने के लिए आपके क्या इनपुट्स होते हैं? ऐसे कौन सी इनपुट्स होंगे, सर्विसेज होंगे जिसका आपने आईटीसी लिया होगा? सिर्फ समझ लीजिए, सिर्फ मेरा बिजनेस सिर्फ इंटरेस्ट कमाने का है, तो मैंने ऐसा क्या किया होगा कि मुझे मेरे खर्चे में क्या क्या चीजें आई होंगी इंटरेस्ट कमाने के लिए?
नॉर्मली ऑफिस रिलेटेड एक्सपेंसेस हो सकते हैं सर, बेसिकली मैनेजमेंट एक्सपेंसेस हो सकते हैं उसमें।
मेरे ख्याल से सर
प्योरली इंटरेस्ट, प्योर इंटरेस्ट बिजनेस में नहीं है सर।
इनफैक्ट सर मैन पावर सर्विसेज भी हो सकती है। अगर सपोज मेरा प्योरली ये वाली सर्विस है जिसमें मैं इंटरेस्ट ही अक्रूड कर रहा हूँ, तो मे भी मैंने कोई मैन पावर अक्रूड डिप्लॉय की होगी इसके लिए कि जो मेरी बैंकिंग के लिए या इधर उधर दौड़े भागी करेगा। सो आई विल बी देन व्हाट विल हैपन? सो 42 43 भी पिक्चर में आ जाएगा।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल भाई, अगर आपका पूरा व्यवसाय ही इंटरेस्ट जनरेट करने का है,
हाँ, तो वैसे ही आईटीसी नहीं मिलेगा।
हाँ, वैसे आईटीसी नहीं।
हाँ, राइट।
जब आप एग्जाम की सर्विस में ही है तो आपको मिलना ही, एक्सक्लूसिवली जो एग्जाम में जा रहा है वो तो मिलना ही नहीं है ना। आपको प्रोपोर्शनल रिवर्सल करना है कॉमन क्रेडिट का।
हाँ, एग्री मिस्टर। यस,
और वो ये समस्या बनी रहेगी, आप समझिए, जब तक इस पे लिटिगेशन नहीं होगा तब तक ये सेटल नहीं होगा, और मेरे ख्याल से ये फेवर में सेटल होने वाली चीज नहीं। या तो वो डेफिनेशन को चेंज करें, या एग्जाम्पशन या इंटरेस्ट को कहीं सेक्शन 7 के शेड्यूल में डालें। शेड्यूल
पवन जी, we'll take questions as regard to these both provisions. Let Pavan ji share his views on this, and then we'll take questions. Pavan ji.
Yeah. So I believe since this advanced ruling has come into picture, I've received at least 4 to 5 calls where a lot of people who were into the senior management has taken a retirement from the company, but they were retained as consultant for a limited purpose for a year or so. And they had a decent amount of interest. So whatever amount they have received as their retirement benefit, they have put into FD and receiving interest. So what they have been doing, their retainer fee was less than 20 lakh rupees, lakh rupee per month. So they were earning around 10 to 12 lakh rupee a year. But by adding the interest income, their gross aggregate turnover was. So now they are also in a difficult situation where whether this amount should be taxable or not taxable, because 17, 18, 18, 19 की अगर हम taxability की बात पे जाएंगे तो one, the company is not going to pay them as a GST. Two, what will happen, they'll also have to incur interest liability as well as penalty on these amounts if they go ahead and pay GST on it. So what will happen with the past period when we talk about 17, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20, and probably they'll not be in a position to pay that kind of amount, because the entire amount which they have received as a revenue will erode as interest and penalty. Given this, I believe that principally one may have to step into litigation for this purpose, as this is going to have a significant impact. Two, how we can typically challenge this provision is only one way, whether we can consider depositing the amount with the banks or a saving accounts or a FD as a business income or not as a business income, which really needs deliberation at this stage. So I believe we have to look forward with the government that a lot of retired people are also going to get affected with this advanced ruling, where they are earning a little amount of commercial rentals, whereas their entire gratuity and other benefits have been put into the fixed deposits earning interest. So I believe this is something which needs a sincere representation with the government to give benefit to the individuals. So this is my take on this advanced ruling. I do not agree with this kind of provision, but yes, there is an exposure, and we need to fight and challenge this provision at a right stage.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Mr. Sudesh Bhatt has raised a very long question in the chat box. I would request Sudesh if you could come up with this question specifically. What is that you want to discuss? Sudesh, can you hear me?
I have a question. All right.
Yeah, hello.
Yes, Sudesh, please.
Yeah, hi, sir. So basically, my question is, if OIDR services provided by service provider who is in non-taxable territory to a business entity in India,
Yes, Sudesh. Sudesh, your voice is muted.
hello.
Yes, Sudesh. Sudesh, can you hear us?
Hello.
Yes, Sudesh.
Yeah, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, please बोलिए.
सर मेरा ये क्वेश्चन था कि जैसे नेटफ्लिक्स का एग्जांपल दिया था सर ने,
जी
उस केस में इंडिविजुअल कंज्यूम कर रहा है सर्विसेज, तो इंडिविजुअल से ऑब्वियसली गवर्नमेंट टैक्स कलेक्ट कर नहीं सकती है. तो गवर्नमेंट ने क्या बोला है कि सर्विस प्रोवाइडर जो उसको एक सेंट्रलाइज रजिस्ट्रेशन लेना है बेंगलोर में और वहां से सारे कंप्लायंसेस पूरे करने हैं. तो ये जो एडवांस रूलिंग है इसमें स्पेसिफिकली क्या बोला उन्होंने?
सर, इस एडवांस रूलिंग में जो सर्विस प्रोवाइडर है वो बाहर यूएस में बैठा है और वो 3 टाइप के टेस्ट कंडक्ट कर रहा है. तो टेस्ट कंडक्ट कर रहा है तो प्राइमरीली आप देखेंगे तो वो OIDR सर्विस की कैटेगरी में ही आता है, और जो सर्विस रिसीव करने वाले हैं वो सब इंडिविजुअल स्टूडेंट्स हैं उन टेस्ट का. उन टेस्ट में पहला केस ऐसा है कि जहाँ पे टेस्ट सेंटर में स्टूडेंट जाता है, अपना टेस्ट देता है और पूरा सेंटर को मॉनिटर करने के लिए कंपनी का एम्प्लॉय है जो पूरे टेस्ट को मॉनिटर कर रहा है, सिस्टम पे लॉगिन कराएगा, उनको रिसेस लेनी है, रिसेस करवाएगा, वहां पे रिफ्रेशमेंट की फैसिलिटी वगैरह सब कुछ है। दूसरा टेस्ट है कि जहाँ पे वो खाली ऑनलाइन उसको एक्सेस कर रहे हैं और कोई ह्यूमन इंटरवेंशन नहीं है। ऑनलाइन आते हैं, वो ऑनलाइन टेस्ट सेंटर में उसको लॉगिन करके टेस्ट करते हैं और वो फर्दर इवैल्यूएट होके उनको रिजल्ट भी वहीं पे हाथों हाथ मिल जाता है। तीसरा टाइप जो टेस्ट था, वो टेस्ट में बेसिकली वो ऑनलाइन लॉगिन करते हैं और उसका इवैल्यूएशन जो होता है वो फर्दर ह्यूमन इंटरवेंशन से हो रहा है यूएस में।
ओके,
so they wanted to bring the test number 2 out of test number 3 basically, more specifically, if I remember correctly, out of this OIDR services, because in all these 3 cases the recipient is individual. The liability to pay the GST and GST compliances will fall on the supplier, which is sitting in US. So they are anyways registered here in US. They were discharging their GST service compliances. But the only thing is they asked specific advance ruling related to these particular tests.
Okay.
So that is what the advance ruling was. There is no dispute as regard अगर Netflix दे रहा है services तो recipient के हाथ में taxable होगा कि नहीं होगा. That even that supplier primary is registered in GST in India. But they had asked this advance rulings more specifically to these nature of tests.
Okay. 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 Thank you. Okay. One more question, sir, regarding interest income.
Please.
जैसे कंपनीज है, कंपनी की बहुत सारी फिक्स डिपॉजिट होती है बैंक्स में, उसका जो इंटरेस्ट इनकम होता है वो अभी हम कहीं 3B में कहीं भी डिस्क्लोज नहीं कर रहे हैं, बट मैंने कहीं पे देखा वो लोग अपने एनुअल रिटर्न में उसको डिस्क्लोज कर रहे थे, तो इज इट राइट और रॉन्ग?
Sir, as Anil ji stated and like we were discussing, Bharat ji also pointed out and Mohan ji also pointed out that there is a table in 3B which says that you have to report all your exempt services. Now interest has been specifically exempted under notification 12 of 2017.
Right.
So if it is exempt, you have to report. But like there are other views also to it, like Pawan ji highlighted कि भाई पुराने टैक्स का क्या होगा, उसके इंटरेस्ट कंपोनेंट का क्या होगा. So ideally there it has to be reported, and anyway you are reporting it in 9 also with when you are reconciling it with your books of account. So primarily it has to be reported. Additional questions attached to this are compliance to rule 42, section 42, sorry. And then if it is like you are paying it now after this advance ruling, तो पुराने interest component का क्या होगा, which as advised by Pawan ji that it can be litigated and fought before the authority. As even Anil ji also suggested that they need to bring in certain provisions wherein this interest is either pulled out of 12/2017 or there is a clear cut explanation provided in section 22 कि ये आपको उसमें जब आप aggregate turnover consider करते हैं उसमें नहीं consider करना है.
तो अभी इसके अकॉर्डिंग हमें सेक्शन 42 का जो मेरा प्रोपोर्शनल रिवर्सल होता है वो करना पड़ेगा कॉमन सर्विसेज के ऊपर.
सर वो कॉमन सर्विसेज कौन सी कॉमन सर्विसेज होंगी जो आपको इंटरेस्ट कमाने के लिए भी लग रही होंगी और बाकी अपने बिजनेस चलाने को भी लग रही होंगी? ऐसी कोई कॉमन सर्विसेज हैं आपके माइंड में?
जो टीम बैठी होती है जो बैंकिंग का काम करती है उनके लिए जो मेरी कुछ सर्विसेज होती है, जैसे मेरा रेंट हो गया या इलेक्ट्रिसिटी हो गया, कम्युनिकेशन के चार्जेस हो गए.
वो एक्सक्लूसिवली इंटरेस्ट को अर्न करने के लिए कैसे हो रहा है सर? इंटरेस्ट तो आपने बैंक में डाल दिया, मतलब पैसा तो आपने बैंक में डाल दिया, उसको एज एन इंटरेस्ट अर्न करने के लिए स्पेसिफिक कोई और सर्विसेज हैं जो आपको लगता है कि इंटरेस्ट अर्न करने के लिए जा रही?
नहीं, स्पेसिफिक तो नहीं है अभी कोई.
स्पेसिफिक भी नहीं है और बहुत ज्यादा आई डोंट थिंक सो कॉमन है. अगर पवन जी अपना व्यू शेयर करना चाहते हैं इस पे.
I totally agree with your version. Actually, if we say that our rent is also being used for earning the interest, would be going little far ahead. As I know a company who has 100 crore of deposit with the bank, earning around 10 crore rupees a year on fixed deposits,
right.
And their total turnover is only 7 to 8 crores.
Okay.
Right, so they have huge amounts of FDs. So are they using their premises for FD? FD is only lying with the bank. They have once deposited some 20 years back and they're not doing any activity. At the most, what you can say is the finance guy who is looking after the FD functions, see, renewing of the FD or other things, his laptop or his telephone is being used for the purpose of that FD. Rest, I do not agree with the fact that rent should be considered as a common services for earning the fixed deposit interest or mutual fund securities interest or whatever.
So we as of now we need not go into section 42 for that compliance.
Sir,
Just
one more
adding
question.
to it, just adding to is as regard the reporting it with the in 3B and annual return, I believe that even if there is a requirement of reversal or not requirement of reversal, like for example, the schedule says that certain activities will be treated neither as supply of goods or not supply of services, they still are to be reported in 3B, though there is no requirement of reversal of credit in respect of those. So I believe as Anil ji has suggested and Pradeep ji has suggested, we definitely are required to report our interest income where we are already registered with the GST in our 3B as well as in our annual return.
Okay.
So, and the
Sir,
second part is the cases which we were discussing, and the advanced ruling pertains to the people who were not registered,
Exactly.
who were individuals. So when we talk about the business, that if interest income being earned on the FD definitely is also a business income. So there the benefit would not be available, which we are talking about fighting with the government that it's not a business income. Right, so that is only for the people who are individuals and they are crossing the threshold limit only because of the interest income.
okay, sir. Sir, one more question. If कोई कंपनी ISD का भी compliance कर रहे हैं, तो उस केस में क्या होता है, मेरे को टर्नओवर लेना होता है मेरा प्रीवियस ईयर का रेशियो निकालने के लिए जो मैं अपने डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करता हूँ, तो उस केस में ये लेना पड़ेगा नहीं लेना पड़ेगा?
सर ISD का चैप्टर थोड़ा आज हम लोग डिस्कस नहीं कर रहे हैं, पर अगर आई एम रियली नॉट एबल टू रिकलेक्ट कि आप क्या पूछ रहे हैं, we can take it separately, Sudesh, if you don't mind.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Thank you,
sir.
We move on to the next part of our webinar today to discuss upon the clarificatory circular issued by CBIC, where they very categorically stated that what is the treatment of director remuneration that needs to be done. They have said that if the TDS is being deducted on the remuneration or any payment that you are making is under 194C of the Income Tax Act, that is primarily related to employment, and there is no GST under RCM on the company. But whereas if there any other payments are being made and the TDS is being reported under 194J, which is for professional services, in that regard, there is a compliance to GST. You have to pay GST under RCM by the company. I still feel they have left certain things unanswered as regard the. I'll just pull up. They had to clarify. They have clarified it very clearly in the end, but bringing in a definition to make it more complex, which I feel was not required here. They could have directly clarified the aspects, and they are still leaving it to the companies to determine whether he is an employee or not of the company. So I would request Anil ji and then Pavan ji to share their views on this circular, sir.
Like we discussed in our last webinar on the issue,
Right.
The basic thing what was required to be examined was the relation. Every one of us, we are into this professional consultation trade, have been through the contracted once or twice or earlier in the studies time. An employer-employee relation is a master-servant relation. Master commands the servant. You need to examine the contract between the director and the company, whether the company is commanding the director as an employee or not. That is the whole case. A director may not be a equity holder. We are often confuse the term director with the promoters. In normal sense, in large companies, directors are invariably employees. Promoters are not directors there. Directors are professionally qualified persons in their field of operations. There would be director operations, there would be director finance, there would be director legal, and so on. Like promoter is the owner who through the AGM as per his equity votes and gives command as to what a director has to do until what time. This should come out of the contract of the director. I have opened a company. I and my wife, both are a director in my company, and we don't have a contract, and we are drawing remuneration, and we are booking the amount as salaries, deducting TDS, companies depositing the TDS. It's fine. It implies that I am getting a salary. If you really want to come under the Schedule 3 of Section 7, to avoid the exposure in any form, if the amounts are high, you must have a contract with the company. Your director must have a contract with the company. So what they are clarifying this time again, that if you are there could be a case. What they are saying, there could be a case where there is a, you are not an employee. In companies, sometimes the government authorities, they have, by law, by investor choice, they have to keep an independent director on board. He is not an employee. He is a surveillance equipment. He is a supervisor. So he will never be an employee as can be examined through his contract. He is imposed on the company as a supervisor. He is not a servant to the company. But the person who is drawing a salary, his remuneration cannot go under the term salary. He would be charging sitting fees. He might be charging some consultation charges and all. But there would be no employer-employee relation or the master-servant relation between an independent director and a company. As far as other directors, they have introduced the term whole-time director. They have introduced the some company act and this company rules, and then TDS provisions. What I'm suggesting is you have to be very clear whether the company is commanding the director or not. The best way to see it, whether company can, expel you from your job, whether company can remove you from your job. If company can remove you, you are an employee, you are a servant. Company is the must. If company cannot remove you, you are serving the company as a salary, still being a promoter, deducting TDS on the salaries, you are still a servant. There is no doubt about it. So I think this circular is leading us to nowhere. The situation is same as it was in all the times in service tax or in GST provisions when it was introduced. It's not clarifying anything.
Exactly.
It's just saying you examine. जैसे मोदी जी बोलते हैं आप अब हम लॉकडाउन नहीं करेंगे, आप अपना देख लो.
Right.
So over to Pradeep ji.
Pawan ji, your views, please.
Sir, I believe Anil ji has explained the things pretty well. So just to add on that, yes, the company must look into one fact that the agreement with the director should be very clear to determine whether he is an employee or not an employee, because besides GST implication, there is going to be a income tax implication too if we take a position which is not as per the agreement with the director. So I believe that becomes a very important document where we need to determine whether he is an employee or not, because TDS to be deducted as a salary or the professional income also differs. So in the same way, the position of the GST will also get impacted if our position taken under the income tax is incorrect. So there has to be a very clear and clean agreement with the director, whether he is as an employee or as an independent director. So it should be very clean and clearly defined.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. I would correct myself. I stated that if the TDS is deducted under 194C, which is for contractors, sorry, I was referring to 192 where the TDS is deducted under the salaries head. We will take any questions if anybody has regarding this circular or. Okay, we can move up to the next part. I'll give you a brief description about what type of compositions are composition levies are available under GST, and then we'll take questions and experts' view on this. See, primarily there are three. What I read is there are three type of composition levies. One is exclusively for intrastate supply of goods, which is your section 10(1), which says that your aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year should be less than 1.5 CR. So you are a registered person. In case if you have to, if your turnover in the preceding financial year was less than 1.5 CR, in the next financial year, you can always opt for a composition levy by filing CMP 03, and then you have to comply to ITC 03 also for reversal of ITC of the input that you still have in your stock, finished goods and semi-finished goods or services likewise. The rates are for manufacturers it is 2%, for restaurants it is 5%, and for other suppliers it is 1%. They have additionally amended section 10(1) and provided that in case if you have services also, but and you want to avail this 10(1) composition levy scheme, your turnover of the services has been restricted to 5 lakh rupees or 10% of the total turnover, whichever is higher. So additionally, for example, somebody is manufacturing a goods and providing services of that also, they can still come under 10(1), but subject to the condition that your service turnover should not be more than 5 lakh rupees or 10% of the turnover, which is whichever is the higher. Now for eligibilities, what you have to be is like you cannot be engaged in supply of services except what has already been provided above. Then you should not be engaged into interstate supplies. Should not be engaged into levy for non-excisable, non-GST goods as well. You should not supply your goods through e-commerce. You should not be manufacturers of notified goods like ice cream, tobacco, and all these things have been notified by the government to be outside the composition levy. And you should not be a casual or non-resident taxable person. Now, the option that you select has to be on pan-India basis. Pan-India basis, I refer is if you are having registrations into multiple locations, and if you opt for composition levy in one particular registration, you'll have to comply and follow the composition in all other registrations. Where I feel I'm not too sure whether this provision is really to be applicable or what are the pros and cons to this provision. I will request the experts to bring their views on this. I'll take you further to the next type. I just want to bring in the confusion that government has, which I have read through a couple of notifications as regard 22 rule section 22 for registration and section 10 for composition. Now, there was the CGST Amendment Act 2018, which was brought in by 1st February 2019. Now, what this Amendment Act, inter alia, the other provision that it amended, it also amended the special category of certain states in GST. Whereas special category of certain states in Article 279A still remains, but out of those states in GST, they have removed certain states, which also includes Uttaranchal, Himachal Pradesh, and Arunachal Pradesh. So now for GST purposes, only Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, and Tripura are specialized categories of states where the turnover is less. But when you come to notification 14/2019, which brought in a change in section 10, where the turnover that you're talking about the last financial year was increased to 1.5 CR for all other states. But as regard to I would say a special category state, because when you read the press release, they specified that this turnover of the special category state has been increased further to 75 lakh. Now there it includes all these states. Arunachal Pradesh is there, Manipur is there, Meghalaya is there, Mizoram is there. Nagaland is there, Sikkim, Tirupura, Uttaranchal, all have been covered and in the composition levy. So when you look at the composition levy, the turnover for all these states is 75. But when you come to section 22 to look for the limit for turnover, it is 20 lakh rupees for certain states because they have been brought out the condition of the special category by the Amendment Act 2018. I don't know. If they are bringing changes into one section regarding to a specified category, why not bring that change into the other categories also? If they had the intention of pulling out certain state out of the special category, this still leaves me with a confusion. I would again invite the experts' views and their view on this particular thing. The second type of composition levy, if I take you through, is it is again intrastate mixed supplies. Now here they have said that supply of service and supply of goods both will be covered. Now what are the conditions and the provisions related to that? If you could not be covered under one because you are primarily supplying goods and you're not falling under one above, you can come under this. Now this has been made effective from 1st of January 2020. The aggregate turnover here in the previous preceding financial year is 50 lakh rupees. You will still have to opt for the composition scheme, which is you have to file CMP 03 and then also comply to ITC 03 for reversal of your ITC. The rate here is 6%. The ineligibility is if you are supplying interstate, IGST transactions are not covered if you have IGST transaction. If you are engaged in supplies of goods which are not liable to GST. फर्दर ई कॉमर्स के थ्रू अगर आप गुड्स बेच रहे हैं और नोटिफाइड गुड्स बेचते हैं और फिर कैजुअल एंड नॉन रेजिडेंट पर्सन है तो उस केस में भी आपको यहाँ पे भी आपको कॉम्पोजिशन लेवी नहीं मिल पाएगी. एडिशनली दिस पॉइंट अगेन इज कमिंग अप हियर एज वेल कि आपको जो कॉम्पोजिशन ऑप्ट करना है वो पूरे पैन इंडिया सिंगल पैन पे जितने रजिस्ट्रेशन है सबके लिए ऑप्ट करना है. फिर दोनों केसेस में सेक्शन 10(1) and section 10(2)(a) in both the cases, if you are exceeding 1.5 or 50 lakh rupees in the financial year, so you are out of the composition levy. Say for example, for financial year 18-19, your turnover was less than 1.5 CR. In the financial year 19-20, you opted for composition levy, and now in the financial year 19-20, your turnover exceeds 1.5 CR. So next year, you are not liable for composition levy. And I must remind you again that every year you have to file CMP 03 to opt for composition levy. It is an year-to-year basis exemption that is available to you. Now coming to the third category of composition levy, this has been brought in by a notification implemented by dated 7 March 2019. So this is before section subsection 2A coming into picture. And what it says is it gives you an exemption from the first supplies of goods and services up to an aggregate turnover of 50 lakh rupees in a financial year from the 1st of April. So what you are saying here is, say for example, you are a registered person and your turnover in the preceding financial year was less than 50 lakh. As you can see, is the first condition of this composition levy scheme. So if you want to pay tax in the next financial year, you can opt under this notification. Here you don't have to file CMP 03. This is not an option that they have given you. You have to opt for such a scheme. You can simply go and pay under this notification, whereas you'll have to comply to ITC 03 for reversal of your ITC. So the primary differentiation between this notification composition scheme and the one that is provided under subsection 2A is primary, that in this notification you don't have to opt. This is by default provided to you, subject to the condition which are listed on the right hand side. So first is your turnover has to be less than 50 lakh rupees in the preceding financial year. So they're giving you an exemption from payment of tax up to 50 lakh rupees in first financial year. This is like an SSI exemption, if you remember, in service tax and excise also, but with certain changes, obviously, because we are in GST now. And then all those conditions are conditions which are related to the previous composition scheme that we have discussed. Now, additionally, what you have to do is that you have to do in composition scheme also, which is provided under subsection 1 and 2A, but that has not been specifically mentioned there. what they say is now you don't have to collect the tax from the recipient. That is a primary, also a condition. You have to issue a bill of supply, and you have to mention this taxable person paying tax in terms of notification 2/2019, dated so not eligible to collect tax on supplies, and then you have to comply for ITC 03, which is you have to reverse the ITC which you have in the previous financial year. I would again revise the thing key. In all these three cases, you are a registered person. In the first two cases that I discussed, you have to opt for composition by filing CMP 03 and then comply to the ITC 03 also for reversal. And here also in this notification exemption scheme, you are a registered person, and you can simply in the next financial year pay tax at the rate under this notification by you don't have to opt for CMP 03, but you have to comply to ITC 03 for reversal here. I would request Pavanji and Anilji to share their views on this, and if they have anything to add on to this, then we'll take questions as regard to composition scheme. Anilji and Pavanji, please.
Pavanji, if you can take up, because I'm less into compliances.
Sir, I think we can take up. I think Pradeep ji has elaborated the provision to a greater extent. I think in case there are some specific questions, we can take it up.
We can take up the questions, sir. Let us take up questions. So if anybody has any questions as regard to composition levies or in totality the previous slides also, first we'll take composition, then you can ask other questions, please.
One thing I would like to add in the whole composition scenario.
Sir.
Like you said in the last option. Last option is not under section 10.
No,
notification which you mentioned.
Right.
2/2019. Now, last option is not asking for any previous year turnover also.
Okay, it is saying up to 50 lakh rupees in the preceding financial year.
Okay, sorry. So I've got confused with the registration thing.
Right.
So if it is 50 lakh rupees, so giving three options is clearly a choice. I mean, when there was section 10. Hello, audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Then when 10 was brought by GST council and all stakeholders, it was supposed to be limited to supply of goods only.
Right.
But then they found that while supplying goods, because the basic scheme of GST was brought by a combination of central and state taxes, and a structure from both earlier tax statutes were incorporated in one or another way. Entire service tax has been transported to GST with slight modifications. Now this third option through this notification, I just I'm just wondering what it helps if you already have section 10(2)(a). How it helps? By opting or not opting is the thing. You can government could have made section 10(2)(a. That is an option, that is fine. But in subsequent case, like you are saying, it is not an option. I'm a bit confused. I mean, if I am less than 45 lakh rupees previous year, and after crossing 50 years, 45, I completed my turnover for March 2020. In April 2020, you are saying I have an option to return my credit, my entire credit, as available as is available in the stock in hand and work in progress. Am I correct?
Right, sir. Right.
And then, if anything, remains balance, I have to pay in cash. And otherwise, if my credit is excess, that will lapse. both way. I have
Right.
to get out of the credit scheme.
Yes, sir.
So at what point of time I have to do this?
Sir, if I talk about 2A comparison with this notification, myself also, like we have discussed earlier, I don't see a purpose of this particular notification, and the timing particularly also. This was brought in by some GST Council meeting which was held somewhere in, I think, January 2019 or December 2018 somewhere. So they proposed that we will bring in a new composition scheme for services. So after that GST Council, this notification came into picture. So this notification was issued after that GST Council meeting in February 2019. So this was proposed. Now
Okay.
bringing the differentiation, sir, I'll bring in the differentiation is, so if you opt for a composition scheme under 2A,
Yeah.
you are liable to pay tax from the very first day of April 2000 of the next financial year.
Right.
In this particular notification, if you go in this notification, they are giving you an exemption up to 50 lakh rupees in that financial year also.
Okay. Okay. Now I got it. Fine.
And say, for example, if I forget to opt for CMP 03 and file, I could not file CMP 03 because there is a time limit for filing this. And
Yeah.
later I realized that I need to be in the composition scheme, which I feel like you can opt for this because they have not specifically mentioned you have to opt for this. This is an option given to you by default if your turnover is less than 50 lakh rupees and if you are complying to all those conditions.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Anybody has any other questions? Pavan ji,
इतनी बड़ी exactly same movie बनाते हैं.
Pavan ji, can you hear us, sir?
Hello.
Pavan
हाँ
ji,
जी
can you hear me?
या बिल्कुल.
सर एक चीज मैं पूछना चाहता हूँ कि कंप्लायंस पे मेरा भी हाथ उतना ही तंग है सर कि जितना अनिल जी रेफर कर रहे हैं. मैं ये चीज पूछना चाहता हूँ कि जैसे उन्होंने ये लिखा है कि जो कंपोजिशन स्कीम आपको ऑप्ट करनी है वो पैन इंडिया बेसिस पे आपके सारे पैन रजिस्ट्रेशन पे करनी है.
राइट.
तो ये मैं अगर दिल्ली में बैठ के कंपोजिशन स्कीम करता हूँ, अलग रजिस्टर्ड हूँ और यूपी में भी मेरा रजिस्ट्रेशन है, तो मेरे को दोनों जगह पे कंपोजिशन स्कीम ऑप्ट करनी पड़ेगी सर?
दोनों पे कंपोजिशन लेना पड़ेगा सर.
But this is, where is the concept of distinct person? Then I'm not being allowed to work independently.
ये तो day one से सर इन्होंने किया था कि composition scheme has to be to the on the all registrations.
Right.
So you cannot have one registration under composition scheme and another under the regular registration.
Okay.
Otherwise, there would be, see, if you are moving goods from one composition location to another composition location, and instead of being a composite dealer, if you are a regular registration, you have to send the goods to your composite registration on payment of tax, and then there is going to be a valuation issues because credit would not be available at the composition locations, and there will be a lot of complication. Also, when you come across filing your annual return, so there are many chances of getting manipulated. They want it to be under one simple. If you are opting for a simple mechanism, it's for a smaller player. So they say if you are able to comply with the regular registration, why you need a composition scheme per se? So once I say I am able to do my regular compliances under a regular registration and one registration, why can't I do my regular compliances as per regular registration in another registration? Right. So it is actually a simplification of the mechanism of compliances. So given this, I should actually opt for a composite scheme pan-India rather than on one registration and on. Yeah.
But I think this notification that I'm referring to, the third option, that does not have this. Let me check. Let me check, sir. Mm, I think just give me a moment, sir, please. Now, this also has the same condition. This notification also, so we have to take composition. We have either of the composition we have to comply on PAN based registrations. Anybody has any questions? We can take up questions, please.
Pradeep ji,
Sir.
Sir, deviating from the agenda, I just want to bring to knowledge of everybody one issue which has come to my knowledge recently.
Please, sir.
That a person has filed his GSTR 3B of 1819 in January 20. So the department is saying, since you have reported and taken credit in 2020, which is beyond September, you cannot utilize that credit. You pay it back, 4 crore rupees. Now 16(4) is the reason they are saying this. What I am trying to convince them that section 43A was introduced last year, where they specifically said, sir, we will bring some prescribe the norms for availing credit. There is no prescription under 43A. It is merely whatever prescription is there for restricting the credit. जो 2A में रिपोर्ट नहीं हुआ है कितना % होना चाहिए नहीं होना चाहिए वो तो मिल गया है, पर जो लोग, क्योंकि आप सरकार अगर आपको कुछ कैश टैक्स पे करना है और आपके पास नहीं है तो वो आपको 3B फाइल करने नहीं देता है.
बिल्कुल.
तो जहां मेरी सप्लाई गवर्नमेंट को है और गुड्स की सप्लाई है और जहां पेमेंट लेट है, मैं टैक्स भरने की हालत में ही नहीं रहता हूँ. जो है सो क्रेडिट है मेरे पास में, और जब तक पैसा नहीं आता तब तक मैं कैश टैक्स नहीं भर सकता हूँ, तो 3B भी नहीं भर सकता हूँ. और अगर मेरा 3B सितंबर के पार चला गया, पिछले साल का 3B, तो डिपार्टमेंट मेरे पे रिकवरी पे उतारू. This subject I would let us leave this open, but department is coming at various places on this issue. कि 16(4) के लिमिटेशन के टाइम के बाद आप अगर 3B फाइल करते हैं, बट बिकॉज देयर इज नो, आपका इलेक्ट्रॉनिक क्रेडिट रजिस्टर में प्रोविजनल क्रेडिट करने के लिए और कोई तरीका ही नहीं है, आपके रिटर्न से ही होता है. तो अगर आपने रिटर्न नहीं भरा है तो आपका इलेक्ट्रॉनिक क्रेडिट रजिस्टर क्रेडिट नहीं हुआ, क्रेडिट नहीं हुआ तो अवेलमेंट नहीं हुआ, और अवेलमेंट का टाइम निकल गया तो आप अवेल कर नहीं सकते 16(4) में. दिस इज गोइंग टू बी अ वेरी बिग इशू. What I understand in Mumbai, a lot of officers I have interacted with, they are interpreting the things in the same manner. They are not resorting to the recovery, but they are saying we will be issuing demand proposals. So let's put this issue in mind and keep it open and deliberate upon this till next webinar. And if possible, I request we can keep this as a subject.
Definitely, sir.
By that time, so that anything achieved by any of our colleagues or any miraculous interpretation to save the clients on this front would help everyone.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Sir, just to add on that, similar issues I also faced in 2018-19, where the as per law, the time limit for taking the credit for 2018-19 is September 19, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So what happened? I have multiple registration in different state. I took the credit in state A, and whereas the supplier has raised the invoices in state B, but because of some internal issues, I could not trace it because some wrong accounting was there. I should have taken the credit in state B, but by mistake we have taken the credit in state A, and the issues were identified post September 2019. Although the annual return yet to be filed, so
Correct.
as you said that we need to keep this discussion open for next webinar. So my question is whether this, after statutory due date September 2019, I wrongly avail the credit in state B, it is pertaining to state A, or I missed the taking the I missed to take the credit by the due date. So is there any way out to avail this credit now?
No. See, what I was requesting that, there was a mechanism in GST when GST was introduced that there you would file GSTR1, then your GSTR one would be converted to your recipient as GSTR2A, then you would see GSTR2A and then add something into it, and then you will file GSTR2. Once you assess your credit, finally, you will file GSTR3. That was the whole scheme which was introduced. Matching could not take place. There was a mayhem. There was a complete chaos, confusion. So we settled for GSTR 3B, wherein they said provisional credit would be allowed as you take. That is your issue. आप बाद में उसको 2A से मैच कराते रहिए, कुछ एडिशनल क्रेडिट बिल ऑफ एंट्री के थ्रू, आरसीएम के थ्रू आ रही है, उसको आप रिपोर्ट कर लीजिए, हम बाद में देखेंगे और आपको बताना पड़ेगा 9 में और 9 में। मेरा कहना ये है कि सेल्फ असेसमेंट पहले 3 रिटर्न में होना था। आपकी आउटवर्ड लायबिलिटी असेस होनी थी 1 में, इनवर्ड लायबिलिटी क्रेडिट की इनवर्ड जो अवेलमेंट था वो क्रेडिट का, वो भी असेस होना था आपके द्वारा। दैट वाज टू बी असेस्ड बाय यू अंडर द असेसमेंट प्रोविजंस। इफ यू सी द प्रोविजंस ऑफ असेसमेंट रन इनटू दैट स्क्रूटनी ऑफ रिटर्न के पहले सेल्फ असेसमेंट का प्रोविजन है। जस्ट लाइक वी हैड दैट इन सर्विस टैक्स बट नोबडी लुक्ड आफ्टर इट। It is just like income tax or earlier VAT. Earlier VAT, most of the states, there was a self-assessment. So what I am saying is there are 3 assessments. One is your assessment of your outward liability. That is under 1 return. That is, second is your own assessment of eligibility of credit, which was in 2. And then your net liability of net tax payment, which was to be reported in 3. Now that, since that mechanism has collapsed, we are going with repair patches of repair in the scheme. We come back to the part of the last date of September. After these discussions with the department, I was also going through the provisions, and there are some startling things happening in my reading, my own understanding. So 16.1 refers to section 49. Section 49 consequently refers to Rule 69. Rule 69 refers to automatic matching by GSTR 1, 2, and 3. And then I am of the view, I just want to ask the department कि भाई आप पहले 16.1 पढ़ लीजिए, उसके बाद 16.4 पे आइए। अगर 16.1 आपने सस्पेंड कर रखा है तो 16.4 ऑपरेट नहीं करेगा। और पहली बात, दूसरी बात जो है कि अभी आपने मेरी रिटर्न अवेलमेंट की सॉरी आईटीसी अवेलमेंट की असेसमेंट सस्पेंड कर रखी है, तो आप, मैं कुछ भी रिपोर्ट कर देता हूँ, आप उसको मान लेते हैं, फिर आप उसको उठा के मेरे इलेक्ट्रॉनिक लाइबिलिटी रजिस्टर में शो करने लगते हैं। मेरा ये कहना है कि अभी भी आज की तारीख में मेरे को आईटीसी असेसमेंट का कोई प्रोविजन आपने उपलब्ध नहीं कराया है, जहां मैं मैच्ड क्रेडिट को एक्सेप्ट करूं, अपनी खुद की क्रेडिट को रिपोर्ट करूं, उसके बाद एक रिटर्न फाइल करूं कि हाँ साहब मेरी इतनी फाइनल लाइबिलिटी बन, सॉरी मेरा फाइनल असेसमेंट होता है आईटीसी का, ये बराबर है। अब उसमें जो प्रोविजंस इन्वॉल्व हैं उसमें आप धीरे धीरे जाएंगे तो देखेंगे कि उन सारे प्रोविजंस का सस्पेंशन नहीं है। जहां आप 42 में जाते हैं तो 42 में भी वो पहले जो बात करता है वो मैचिंग रिवर्सल एंड रिक्लेम ऑफ इनपुट क्रेडिट की बात करता है। 43 में आप जाते हैं तो वो आपको रिडक्शन इन आउटपुट लाइबिलिटी कर की बात करता है। 43A जो मैं आपसे बोल रहा था, जो बाद में इंट्रोड्यूस किया गया, which is supposed to provide the procedure for availing of tax credit and verification, वो बोलता है कि वो that would be prescribed। तो मेरा सभी से निवेदन है, इंक्लूडिंग पवन जी से, कि ये प्रिस्क्रिप्शन मुझे कहीं मिला नहीं, वो प्रिस्क्रिप्शन लाया नहीं गया है। तो जिस चीज का प्रिस्क्रिप्शन आप लाया नहीं है, उस चीज को आप ग्राउंड लेके मेरे से डिमांड नहीं कर सकते हैं। आप पहले प्रोविजन लाइए कि किस तरीके से मुझे क्रेडिट अवेल करनी है, फिर मैं उसको असेस करके अवेल करूंगा, और उसके बाद आप ये लिमिटेशन लगाइए 16(4) का।
सर आपने बिल्कुल राइटली पॉइंट आउट किए सारी चीजें, बट इसमें आई थिंक मेरे हिसाब से सर इसमें जो प्रॉब्लम स्टार्ट हुई है ना, दैट प्रॉब्लम started earlier. All the people were saying that GSTR 3B is not a return, right? GSTR 1, 2 and 3 is the prescribed return, prescribed under law. So if there is no 2, no 3, then you can't claim to the taxpayer कि आप कब क्रेडिट लोगे या कब नहीं लोगे। ये प्रॉब्लम स्टार्ट हुआ था जब जैसे इसको रेट्रोस्पेक्टिव अमेंडमेंट ले आई है गवर्नमेंट। पहले गुजरात हाई कोर्ट का डिसीजन था इसी रूलिंग पे, इसी सब्जेक्ट पे। तो ये लास्ट ईयर जो गवर्नमेंट ने रेट्रो अमेंडमेंट कर दिया कि 3B इज द रिटर्न, तो आई थिंक उसके बाद से थोड़ा ज्यादा प्रॉब्लम हो गई है कि क्या अगर ये 3B को नोटिफाई कर दिया एज ए रिटर्न अंडर लॉ, तो क्या ये जो रिस्ट्रिक्शन है 4 वाली 16(4) वाली, ये एप्लीकेबल हो जाएगी? अगर ये हो जाती है तो आई थिंक रियली अ सीरियस इश्यूज फॉर द ट्रेड।
नहीं भरत जी, मेरा ये मानना है कि वो जो 16(4) एक टूल है आज उनके हाथ में अपनी स्किन बचाने के लिए, लेकिन वो स्किन समय से पहले बचाना चाह रहे हैं। अभी लिमिटेशन स्टार्ट होने दीजिए किसी भी चीज का। सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट की एजेंसीज के साथ समस्या है, जो एक बड़ा फर्क है। आप देखेंगे कि सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट की एजेंसी, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट की एजेंसीज को हमेशा से आदत पड़ी हुई है एनुअल रिटर्न फाइल होने के 1 आध साल के बाद वो ओपन करते हैं। राइट। सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट की आदत पड़ी है सर, वो अगले महीने की 6 तारीख को निगाहें गड़ाए बैठे रहते हैं, इसकी रेवेन्यू कितनी आई हमको रिपोर्ट करनी है।
करेक्ट।
तो ये थोड़ा सा प्रीमेच्योर उनका सब प्रोसेस चालू है। 18-19 का, भाई मैं आज की डेट में अगर चाहूँ तो 18-19 का, अभी तो मेरा GSTR 9 फाइनल नहीं हुआ, सितंबर तक टाइम है शायद उसका।
करेक्ट।
दूसरी चीज, आप अगर पोर्टल पे जाएंगे, क्योंकि मैं नॉर्मली कंप्लेंट्स नहीं देखता हूं, तो अभी तक पोर्टल से मेरा इंटरेक्शन बहुत कम था। इस केस में मैंने जाके पोर्टल पे देखा कि वो भी मैंने उनसे पूछा, मैंने कहा साहब आपके पास एक इलेक्ट्रॉनिक लाइबिलिटी रजिस्टर पॉपुलेट होता है उसमें पोर्टल पे, जहां आप बताते हैं GSTR 3B और 2A और इसके कारण कहाँ कितना अंतर आ रहा है, नहीं GSTR 1 और GSTR 3B के कारण क्या अंतर आ रहा है। तो जब मैंने GSTR 3B फाइल किया, और उसमें आपको मालूम है साहब कि ये 18-19 का सितंबर के बाद में GSTR 3B फाइल कर रहा हूँ, तो मेरे इलेक्ट्रॉनिक लाइबिलिटी रजिस्टर में आपने उठा के क्रेडिट का जो डेबिट मैंने किया हुआ है ऑटोमेटिकली जोड़ देना चाहिए था ना, सिस्टम क्यों नहीं जोड़ रहा है? तो आप क्यों जोड़ना चाह रहे हैं? तो सिस्टम चीज सही फॉलो कर रहा है। तो मेरी इलेक्ट्रॉनिक लाइबिलिटी रजिस्टर से ज्यादा लाइबिलिटी आप क्रिएट करना चाहते हो किसी एक इंटरप्रिटेशन से, तो आप मेरे को वही जो प्रदीप जी को अगर याद हो तो एक इशू बहुत पहले ही 3-4 महीने में उठा था, किसी ने GSTR 3B और 1 के डिफरेंस की बात की थी। तो हमने ये कंटेंट किया था डिपार्टमेंट को कि साहब ये आप बातचीत मत कीजिए, आप लेटर वेटर भी मत कीजिए, आप तो हमको ASMT 10 इशू कर दीजिए। जिस महीने का रिटर्न आप स्क्रूटनाइज करना चाह रहे हैं आप ASMT 10 इशू कर दीजिए, उसमें आप डिफरेंशियल निकाल दीजिए कि साहब ये रिटर्न में ये गलत हुआ, एंड यू वोंट बिलीव दे टुक द इंक्वायरी बैक। तो समस्या ये है कि एजेंसीज को आप तो नहीं रोक सकते हैं, आप कोई काम करने से ना, आप उनका कोई सीनियर या मिडिल रैंक का आदमी अगर किसी इंटरप्रिटेशन पे आ गया तो आप उनको स्टॉप तो नहीं कर सकते, बट प्रॉब्लम इज ही क्रिएट्स अ वेव इन द एंटायर ट्रेड, और आजू बाजू के जो कमिश्नरेट हैं वहां भी वो वायरस पहुंच जाता है इन्फेक्शन लेके।
करेक्ट।
तो प्रॉब्लम मुझे नहीं लगता लीगली उसमें कोई इशू खड़ा होने वाला है या कोई पैसा भरना पड़ेगा, पर समस्या मेरी ये है कि अपीलेट स्टेज पे अगर ये इशू आता है, क्योंकि सेंट्रल एजेंसीज में एक दूसरी प्रॉब्लम ये है कि फर्स्ट एडजुडिकेशन या फर्स्ट डिपार्टमेंटल अपीलेट एडजुडिकेशन मेरिट पे नहीं होता, वो ऑल ऑफ दे आर प्रो रेवेन्यू, और बहुत रेयर केसेस में मेरिट पे वो एडजुडिकेट करते हैं, लेकिन और बाकी के मोस्टली केसेस में वो डिमांड कंफर्म कर देते हैं। माय प्रॉब्लम इज कि जहाँ ये अमाउंट बड़ा है, जहाँ GSTR 3B लेट हो गए हैं, मिस हो गए हैं, सितंबर के बाद हो गए हैं पिछले साल के, वहाँ पे ये प्री डिपॉजिट के इशू सिरदर्द बनेंगे। और
करेक्ट।
तो अपील हारने वाले नहीं है हम लोग, ये आप बात समझ लीजिए, पर कैश फ्लो का इशू आने वाला है तो उसका कोई इलाज, इसके लिए मैंने इस चीज को बोला कि ये 43A जो सेक्शन इंट्रोड्यूस किया गया है, इसमें हमको रिप्रेजेंटेशन भी करना चाहिए, सारे फोरम्स पे उस बात को उठाना भी चाहिए कि साहब ये आप मशीन तो लाओ, आप नट बोल्ट टाइट करने के लिए तैयार हो सारे औजार लेके, मशीन गायब है, तो जब मशीन नहीं है तो आप असेसी की नट बोल्ट टाइट कर देते। तो हम लोग काम धंधा करें कि आपकी ये इंटरप्रिटेशन पढ़ते रहें। This is what.
Thank you, sir.
Ji sir, we'll further deliberate it in the next webinar. See if we can find out something. I myself also has a certain issues as regard to governmental services. I'm working on certain articles on that on my personal basis. I would want to bring up this question like it has always been in service tax. And I think it was deliberated in service tax, and still that litigation is still on in service tax, whether municipal functions and panchayat functions can be further entrusted to any authority. When I go to Article 243W, I find committees in any body which can be constituted by states to entrust Schedule 12 functions. But when I go to 243G, which says powers and functions of panchayat, there is no mention of any body, any committee, any authority which the state can entrust the functions of panchayat, which brings us to the exemption which has been provided in the notification 12/2017 as regard to government entities providing services which have been entrusted the functions of panchayat under Article 243G. So I will bring up litigation in advance rulings also, and there is as regard to the interpretation of that definition which was existing in service tax and in service GST also, where they say that 90% of the control should be with the central government, state government, or the local authority, and which have been entrusted the functions of 243G and 243W. In case of L&T, this issue came up in Bihar and it is pending with Supreme Court. High Court has interpreted that there are two things, that it has to be enacted by the central government or the state government, and then it should hold 90%, the second clause to that. So that interpretation is still pending with the Supreme Court, that after that two clauses, the remaining part is applicable to the entire two clauses, or it is applicable only to the second clause. So I think this can also be deliberated further in some webinar, because we are a lot of clients actually providing services to the government agencies. Like in service tax, the issues have still not been settled, what I feel. But they're coming up in advance rulings here in GST also, where advance ruling is taking a view that they are not governmental authorities. So any services that are provided to them will not be classified under that exemption.
So as regard to municipal functions, we have sufficient jurisprudence,
Right.
because this was there in service tax also. And as far as 243G is concerned, basically the third tier of the governance, which was municipal corporation, municipality, corporation के पहले क्या होता था? Municipal
council,
municipal
Jila Panchayat,
council,
Nagar
municipal
Panchayat.
council. No, not Jila Panchayat. Jila Panchayat is a different thing. Municipal bodies are municipal corporation, municipal council, and this Gram Panchayat, what we said. Gram Panchayat, municipal council, and municipal corporation they are at the same footing.
No, Nagar Panchayat is at the same footing, sir.
Nagar Panchayat. तो अभी उसमें जो फंक्शंस हैं, आप देखेंगे शेड्यूल 12 के, जब आप 243W देखते थे तो 243W में शेड्यूल 12 के अलावा भी चीजें हैं.
जी बिल्कुल. Social and economic development.
Now with this, so what has happened earlier, when the constitution was drafted, it was very clear that the major functions as to the locals and localites and local phenomena would remain with the municipal corporation. Problem started when after some 84 amendment it was, I think, and then 92 amendment, wherein they said the state government started exercising those powers under different entities, snatching the powers of municipal corporation or municipal bodies, let us say. And majority of that was under the development authorities. Different development authorities made under different C class and B class and A class cities, wherein the state government took control of the land development in their hand, which was actually a function of municipal corporation. And then they started overpowering the functions of municipal corporation by issuing separate enactments in a state. Like each state, you would find that for these special authorities or area development authorities, there is an act. And somewhere in that act, you would find there is a circumcision of municipal powers and overriding effect given in these authorities to take over the municipal functions.
Right.
अभी ग्राम पंचायत वाले पार्ट में आपको जरा सा ये देखना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि हर स्टेट के फंक्शंस अलग अलग हैं, अलग अलग एनेक्टमेंट्स हैं. मध्य प्रदेश का एक केस था जहां आई एक्सेप्टेड इन दैट केस आल्सो, व्हिच वाज रिगार्डिंग द भोपाल डेवलपमेंट अथॉरिटी, wherein the tax authorities agreed that these functions have been thoroughly delegated under this enactment. मध्य प्रदेश ग्राम पंचायत एवं शहर विनिवेश अधिनियम, तो वो उसमें क्लियर कट ओवरराइडिंग पावर्स थी. आपको अपने स्टेट में वो प्रोविजन ढूंढने पड़ेंगे अगर वो क्लियर कट है वहां पर उस अथॉरिटी के लिए, क्योंकि अगर वो स्टैट्यूटरली इनेक्टेड है वो अथॉरिटी, इनकॉर्पोरेशन अगर उसका किसी इनेक्टमेंट में हुआ है, तो मुझे नहीं लगता वो समस्या आनी थी, बट स्टिल इट डिपेंड्स अपॉन केस.
यस सर. So Abhilash is asking as regard penalty for late return already filed for January 20 as penalty will be shown in February 20 return. Abhilash, if you could be more specific regarding your query. I think he's not there with us anymore.
Yeah.
Anyways,
So
thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Anil ji and Pavan ji, for your time.
thank you very much, boss.
I think we can end it up here now, sir.
Yeah.
Pavan ji, if
Good
you have
day,
anything to
good
add,
day.
sir.
Good day,
Thank you very
everybody.
much.
Thank
There
you.
are always new things how you are taking out the topics which are really different in a routine manner. You don't come across such topics, so it's a real effort to actually strategize each and every webinar. Hats off to you.
I'm getting a lot of suggestions from you, Anil ji, and even Jeevan ji is also contributing a lot to this. All other members who are regularly joining, like Bharat ji, has his different views from the industry perspective. Mohan ji is contributing a lot from his perspective also, and others also, those who are regularly joining. This is an insight and learning experience for all of us, sir.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a real effort actually, but there is something which is required is a consistency, and you have been putting the consistent effort. If I look at the entire group, the most consistent person, if I look at it, is Pradeep ji. So hats off to you, and thank you very much for putting that kind of time and
Thank
effort.
you so much, sir. Thank you so much that everybody is there. Everybody is supportive enough to at least spare their time to deliberate these issues. And I know there are a lot of webinars that are going around, but we wanted to be different to open up it to the panelists also to ask questions, and didn't want it to be a regular webinar where the speakers are just deliberating on their points. So we look forward to many more participants coming up and asking their questions, because हम लोग भी थोड़ा इन उसमें टेकअप कर लेते हैं कोई ना कोई पॉइंट. जैसे अनिल जी ने आज ये वाला 16.4 का इशू बता दिया, अब उसमें इंडस्ट्री इशू भी बता दिए भरत जी ने, और कुछ आपकी तरफ से भी आते ही है. अब हमारा लिमिटेड स्कोप है सर, हम लोग जीएसटी कर रहे हैं तो जीएसटी में कुछ ना कुछ डेलीब्रेट करते रहते हैं.
बिल्कुल राइट जी
सर. थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू सो मच.
Thank you everyone. Thank you very much.
everybody.
Thank you.